There it is.
What up, ladies and gents? Welcome to, what's today, James? Wednesday?
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday already?
What are you grateful for Wednesday?
What are you grateful for Wednesday? And I got Joe, not just a regular Joe. I got a Super Joe. What does that mean?
Not just an average Joe.
We'll
Super
find
Joe.
out.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business, on social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
Business Bros.
You guys are so slow. I thought you were going to say it faster than that.
You know what it is?
We're there.
We usually do it faster when we used to do our stuff in person, but this whole like COVID thing, everything online has this little natural delay, so it's a little weird.
Yep. And natural delay. I got a little bit scared because the audio went silent on me for a second. I was like, oh crap. But we're back, and it is time, ladies and gentlemen. It is a beautiful and hot San Diego summer day, and as always, it's about to get even hotter on the Business Bros Pod. Our guest today is a New Jersey-based serial entrepreneur whose
Time out.
mission... Oh, crank
Joe,
it.
hit it, Joe.
There's that.
Our guest
Give me
today
a try.
is a New Jersey-based serial entrepreneur whose mission in life is to help business owners pursue the lifestyle of their dreams. Having written 4 books in 4 years, our guest knows the power of focus, following one course until successful. Our guest has an incredible work ethic, and it is no surprise that he's taken over his family's heavy-duty truck repair shop and is turning it into a franchise. Meanwhile, he's on the airwaves, in your living rooms, and he's got your back via podcast, self-produced TV shows, and his very own clothing line. I, for one, can't wait to hear about all the exciting things our guest has to offer. Joining us today from across the coast and from 234 Media, 234 Threads, and 234 Solutions, give it up for the founder of the Independent Podcast Conference and host of the Business with Super Joe Pardo podcast, Super Joe Pardo!
Thank you so much. That was That's a neat trick. I like that one. They make it so much easier to do that now that you can drag and drop video in and clips and stuff.
Oh, there's
That's
all
awesome.
kinds of cool stuff.
Fantastic.
I didn't even
Yeah.
tell you that in our preview. I was having so much fun with you. Yeah, James can randomly drop any movie clips he likes. He'll just randomly hit the button and there you go. Like that's just how it works. Joe, man,
I love it.
Super Joe.
Super Joe, you got so much stuff going on. I'm just gonna.
That is a hell of a resume, for real.
Yeah. Of all the things you
thank
got
you.
going on, which one tickles your fancy the most right now? Which one's got your eye, your attention?
It's got, well, right now because of COVID, I'm home, right? So I'm not at the shop because of, like, my son has a reactive airway disease that we found out about back in November, where we went to the hospital twice and stayed overnight once, which is not great. He's 2. So we're pretty much just trying to stay away from people and home as much as possible. And so for right now, my real focus is the Independent Podcast Conference and community. So I have the Icon 6 event, which is Independent Podcast Conference number 6, happening September 12th and 13th. So that's got pretty much my full attention between that and the Icon University that I launched about 2 months ago in support of the conference, so that I could work, from home and actually, because like, the Independent Podcast Conference never really was a business so much as it was like a pet project / arm of my, like, it was like a extension of my business. And I'd get some clients and things out of it on the coaching end. But for the most part, it was just because I love bringing people together and, I just love hosting events. So for me, it just made sense back in 2014 to put it together, and we hosted our first one in 2015. So right now, that's really got like the bulk of my attention is in the Indie Pod universe.
So tell me about
cool.
that conference. What's it like? What is the conference like? Well, I mean, obviously with COVID, it's going to be a little bit different, right? But what was the initial intention, and what are we going to be looking at in September?
Yeah, because you've been running it for 6 years, right?
Yeah. This will be the 6th anniversary event. We did our 5th. We did it in Atlantic City. We did it big. It was a lot of fun. So the reason I got started with is I've always been involved with different events, whether it's in my family's business. We did a vendor night where we'd have like 1,000 people come through, all these vendor booths, and then go to like a free buffet, an open bar. So even as like a kid, I was running around like grabbing the free pens and all the tchotchkes and stuff off the table. And then as I got older, I got involved with the event, helping run it and producing it. And then I'm also a pretty big gamer. So like when I got older, I was doing LAN parties, and I was part of a group of people that did a LAN party for 512 people here in South Jersey, way back in like 2005, which was great. And I've also into DJing, which you can see my turntables here behind me. So like I was doing raves back in like 04, 05, 06, 07, and then. So like I always just love putting on events. Like I've volunteered at conventions and stuff. So once I got into podcasting, about 8 months into it, I was like, I went to an event down in Florida, and I was like, I could do this. Like, I mean, I put all kinds of events together. So, I was like, all right, well, let's put a Facebook group together. It was originally called the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference, but it was never about like the people of the Mid-Atlantic states, because we had members from literally from Nigeria all the way to like up and down the West Coast, East Coast, and everywhere in between. So the first year we had like 40 some people show up. We hosted it at a school gymnasium. It was one track. Everyone got, not everyone got on stage, but most, like maybe like 60% of the people came and spoke on stage. And then the following year, we moved from that school gymnasium to a hotel down the street from me. And at that point, we had people from the UK, people from all over the country, and we were up to like 75 people at that point. So it, for me, it's always about bringing people together, learning, and things that I do differently than other conferences. Like you probably maybe have been to other conferences to learn things, right? What I do differently is we put everybody in one room, so there's one track, so people are getting to rub elbows with the Dave Jacksons, the Jessica Kupfermans of the world, who, if you're into podcasting, those are really big names. I mean, one of them's Hall of Famer, Dave Jackson's Hall of Famer. And so we also feed people too. So you get a free, you get lunch. So you not only are you,
huge, by the way,
engrossed, right? We're talking and walking, and we're gonna go get lunch, and so when you come, we feed you. It's just one of those things. Like we created a real like family bond where people were finding each other at other conferences, like and like they're like, oh, my MapCon family. And in last year in September, I announced that we were changing the name, and literally after that, all of a sudden, like our Facebook group had like 425 people in it. It grew like a little bit leading up to each event, and then it would kind of peter off because, again, it wasn't a business for me so much as it was like, I make a few bucks every year. I have fun. We bring clients in, get potential clients out of it. So once the name changed, all of a sudden, like now we had like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people a day joining the group just organically because they were because we went from Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference to Independent Podcast Conference. It resonated with people. It was a new logo. And some of our old heads that had been there since the beginning were like, I don't know about this name change. I'm scared. I'm like, look, I promise you things are not changing. We're just changing the name because we literally had people from Australia last year. We had 3 people come from Australia, plus people from all over the country that came to Atlantic City, which turned out to be much more of a pain in the butt to get there than anything. Because like Philly is over an hour away, so like you'd fly into Philly and then you still have an hour drive to get down to the shore. So I don't know that we'll be going back to Atlantic City, but it was like, hey, it's the 5th anniversary. We're doing big things. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great time. And it was an incredible location down at Ocean. Friends with one of the owners there, so that's how I kind of got tied in and all that. But but again, even for me, like I'm used to driving 8 miles down the street to the hotel. That costs
super
way
close.
less. Yeah, because it's outside of it's just outside of Philadelphia in the airport there, versus like down an hour away. Plus everybody that came from the south had to go up to Philly and then down. People from like DC, Baltimore area. So
what kind of feedback do you get when you have people come to the conference? Like what's the best parts that they enjoy? Like they walk out and they're like, dude, this was awesome. This was the best part. What is it that you get feedback on that you want more of?
So for the longest time, I guess I tried to not live it because I don't like to my name might not really suggest it, but I try to be modest about it. And what it turned out was, and I was told this for years by a lot of people that were coming to the conference. They're like, Joe, they're coming because of you. Like, we're all here because of you. And I'm like, no, you're here to learn. You're here to like get lunch. We're giving away microphones. We do these. We do workshops during the event. Like, people are coming for that. They're not coming for me. Like, they're not. No one's hoarding my time when I'm there. Like, I'm dead. like there's like pictures of me literally laying on the ground because I'm just so exhausted by like not even the end of it. By like by middle of the first day, I'm already like wiped out because it's generally a 3-day event at this point. So but really, it's to me, it's about the people, right? You're bringing in the right kind of people that get it. This isn't this conference. While it's really tailored towards the entrepreneurial type of podcaster who wants more, right? They might not have the money coming in from their podcast, but they want more. They want to be able to get paid for what they do. They want to get paid for bringing people on their show and scheduling them and putting together the show notes and the thumbnails and having the sponsors and having, creating products. But some of them just haven't figured out how that's all going to happen for them just yet because they haven't maybe targeted their market enough or they're honing their message enough or become polarizing enough in one direction or the other to make people, have the needle move on them where it says, instead of saying, I don't know if I like this or I don't know if I understand what it is, they say no, or they say yes. At least then you're getting answers, right? You're not getting, I don't know what this is really about. And so, to me, it's really about the people. So the most we've had in the room is about 110 people. And like I said, so this past year, I gave the first ever talk that I've never given a talk at any of my conferences. I host them, but I'm also vlogging during them. So like I'll be up in the front of the room. I have where's my camera at? Like,
you got your nice little gimbal.
Yeah, well, no, not a gimbal, but my rig is small and compact and
Nice.
So like I'm in the front of the room, I'm vlogging, I'm hosting, I'm running the tech, I'm running the audio, the PowerPoint, getting the slideshow and everything like that. And everyone's like, "Oh, you need more help. You need more help." And I'm like, "Yeah, it probably would be nice to get a little more help, but we'll get there. I'm not, but now I have a team, right? So I got up in front of the room and gave a talk, which I never spoke at any of my conferences other than hosting and introducing the next people as they come up. And part of that's because I'm tired.
Yeah,
by
fair,
day 2, I'm just
fair.
like I'm totally wiped. So and I usually do a course in the beginning before the conference starts. I usually run a private course about monetizing your podcast. So like between that and everything else going on, usually dead, so I don't want to speak. It's bad enough I got to keep getting up in front of the room and hosting it, and I love doing it, and that's why I will continue to keep doing that. But yeah, so I think it's the people. People say it's because of me. I say it's because of the people. I'm not really. Besides that, I'm not really sure.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. There's a lot of people who've gotten into the podcast space, especially now that COVID is hit, right? Now there's swarms of people. They got a good idea of how to stand behind the camera, at least, to do Zoom calls. Maybe they got some microphone stuff. You try to go on Amazon and get mics and stuff like that. Like they're sold out, they're backlogged. So many people getting into this space. And they find really quickly that they're overwhelmed with everything that goes into putting a podcast. It's not just turning on the mic and recording. There is, like you mentioned, there is show notes and there are thumbnails and there are posting and there are, engagement on social media, like all kinds of stuff. It really does consume a lot of time. Mm-hmm. What are you telling people who have not monetized, who have not been able to make the money or have not been able to build their audiences? How do you either help them cope with the fact that, hey, you're working towards something, or bro, this is probably not for you? Like, what are you gauging people on? How are you advising them?
The number one thing you can do is put in the reps, right? You got to get in front of the mic, you got to get in front of the camera, and you got to keep doing it, right? So even if you don't quite know what your niche is or where you fit into the world, you're never going to get anywhere if you're not actually, doing the thing. You can watch all the videos you want. You could, join the Icon University. You could watch like the 150 hours there. But like at the end of the day, if you're not putting in the reps, you're not going to get anywhere. So the first question you got to ask yourself is, how do I get good? And that's the number one thing you can do is put in the reps, put in the time. Like I've been podcasting since 2014, but before that, I've been creating content since 97 as a 10-year-old kid, making cheat code websites for, for video games and stuff. So for me, like creating content, it's just an extension of what I already did. But I'll tell you, I wasn't that comfortable on the mic prior to getting on in this journry.
You sound like a natural.
Oh, well, thank you. It's taking a lot of hours to get there. It's taking a lot of hours to get there. Like I had given, some talks before and stuff, but for me, like I knew when I wanted to start, the goal was to do the podcast, write books, talk, and coach, right? And in coaching being an extension, or a membership site or a group or whatever, being an extension of the coaching part of it. Though my original intention was not actually in business, because I didn't know what I really wanted to do, right? I left $100 million, my family's $100 million company, and I don't have a degree. Like I really didn't know what I was going to do. I started to go back to school because I was like, well, I should probably get like a degree or something. I'm like 27 at this point, so like I need to have some kind of way of getting a job. Yeah, like I have a house with cars. I got a wife. Fortunately, she's a teacher, so I had some money, but like I wasn't making that it wasn't that kind of money that I was making prior with it. So it's when you're just getting started, like I said, you really got to be focused on putting in the reps, getting consistent with it, figuring out what consistency looks like to you. In fact, I just talked about that back on Monday on our Motivational Monday on the Indie Pod Daily Show. Was it creating a consistent pattern, and you're not going to be perfect, right? Like I always say, like you can bend the rules, you can break the rules, but there's got to be rules. So you got to set those rules for yourself so that you have at least a baseline of understanding of where what's acceptable. Are you going to go daily? That's great. Like when I started, I was 1 day a week. And then literally the second week into podcasting, I was like, well, I have this backlog of like 25 episodes already because I'm literally interviewing as many people that I know that on these topics. And so I was like, well, the second week, let's go 3 days a week. So I was like, let's do it. And then about a month in or so, I was like, what's 2 more episodes? Let's go 5 days a week, which, I think a lot of people get wrapped up in the editing part too, when really you should be more focused on like getting in the reps and getting the marketing out there and putting it out there. Because if you're worried about editing, then you're worrying about the wrong thing. People, and I believe this like through and through. Like I wish I could get all those hours back, because now 6 years later, not that those episodes don't matter, because those episodes are still getting found on Google and stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to make a difference.
It doesn't, right?
You're going to spend 2 hours editing an episode that like 3 years from now isn't going to move the needle one way or the other.
Not at
You've
all.
already moved on. You've gotten better. You've gotten better guests. You've got guests who know how to talk on the mic. You got so much more than you're starting with. So, editing can be good. It depends on what kind of show you're going to put together. If you're going to put something where it's like, hey, I got to take that crazy clip and I'm going to put it in the front. I would say if you've never done this before, don't even worry about that. Just get started doing, either interviews or putting the topics together and getting the foundation of you talking on the mic out together. Yeah. Once you get that, then you can start to worry about like, oh, how do we leading up to our first kid, my wife and I did a show called Birth, and it was an audio documentary where her and I would sit down and we would talk and have a conversation every single week leading up to having our first child. And we would have conversations with like our parents and relatives and stuff, friends, and we would record those conversations, and then we would intersperse that into the episode. And it was cool. Like it really, it's a keepsake for whatever,
Forever,
for what it's worth, right? And that to me is worth like a ton.
One of the things we love about the podcasting.
Yeah,
exactly. But it took a bunch of work to do all that, and that's a different level of editing than like, oh, I got to take out all the ums, because if I record a 60-minute episode and I take out the ums, there's like a minute and a half that I could save time on somebody. It's like, well, if you're opening up to a bunch of crickets anyway, what difference? Listeners do not care about whether or not you're saving them
Love
a
the
minute and a half.
soundboard.
And it took you like 3 hours to make all that sound probably pretty robotic, especially if you're not good at editing.
Totally.
Where's that going to move the needle? Because you know what?
So-
Your guest ain't going to share it anymore.
No,
just because of that.
And here's the funny thing, like, when you talk about spending all that time, that's one of the reasons why we started using StreamYard, because all those things, like I was worried about, okay, how do I add the intro? How do I add the outro? Even adding those things in, it still takes time to edit. Well,
I think that was in your Instagram story today.
Yeah, and so now when we start the show, literally the intro's already in there. The outro is going to be in there. It's already done. If we wanted to add any segments, James can randomly drop in movie clips whenever he wants. Sound effects, all that stuff, backgrounds. Like it's live editing, and is it the best? Is it 100% like spot on every single time? No, I mean we stutter at our own business bros at the beginning, but it doesn't matter. Like you said, you get your stuff in, you get your stuff done. So let me ask you
about those reps.
Right, it's all about the reps.
Yep.
I mean, you're literally episode 545, so we've been doing this for quite some time, and getting ding ding.
That's
It's
awesome.
right.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're about to launch.
Man, I want to know about that soundboard that you got going on, though. I'm gonna have to talk to you.
We can talk about it afterwards. I got
Yeah.
some time.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask you though. We're about to launch a new show called The Carrier Experience. It's going to be launching on September 1st. Very, very much taking what we've learned from podcasting on the Business Bros and focusing and niching down in the insurance space. And when we attempt to start some of our marketing campaigns, what do you think would be some good suggestions to? I mean, we got some strategies that we're going to put in, but I'm wondering, what do you think would be some good strategies to get listeners to come over, to get the attention of the sponsors that we're looking for? And just let me give you a heads up while you think about that. We're in the insurance space, so we're going to be interviewing insurance agents, and it's going to be twofold. One fold is to obviously learn from their what they're doing well, what they're working on, what stuff's going on. And second, I mean, we hope to get these people on our database so we can eventually, reach out and say, hey, do you want to be part of our insurance agency? Look, we do some cool stuff. We give you content for your marketing aspects. We have connections with these types of carriers. We have all these cool things that we're offering you. Wouldn't it be cool if you joined our team? So that's kind of the intent behind it.
Wow. Okay. So number one, is this in a specific space? Because don't you have to be licensed for insurance in certain?
We own an insurance agency, yeah, in California.
Okay. Oh, so you're specifically targeting insurance agents to be on the show that are in California.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool. And all this is just a ruse to get to hire the best. So basically, they're interviewing for their job.
We're you know what it is? It's like if your job is to
They
recruit.
just don't know it yet.
Yeah, they don't know it yet, right? Our job is to
Right.
recruit agents. And so how do you do that? You get in front of them and you tell them what it is you do and what you offer. So I could pick up the phone. I could, knock on some doors. I can send some emails, or I can invite them to be on my podcast and, get to know who they are and decide if they're the ones that want to come over.
Who is the show? Like, who's the listeners for the show? Other agents to get better at being agents?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I think that I didn't know I didn't think you were gonna go in the direction you did, where we're gonna poach people through a podcast. I think that I'll give you some things for that, because that is great. No, you know what, that speaks to the volumes, to the idea that one of the best reasons to start a podcast, and one of the reasons that I felt it was so important for me to start a podcast, especially called Dreamers Podcast, at a time when I didn't know what I wanted to do. The goal was to talk to people who did know what they were doing, because they were doing awesome things, and
Nice,
I knew that I would be inspired myself, and in a way I was inspiring other people, but I knew I was inspiring myself to kind of figure out what the heck exactly I wanted to niche, where I wanted to be.
Secretly,
right?
that's another caveat to this whole thing is I know that there's agents out there doing things better than I am. Let me learn from them, and bring that same value to all of our listeners.
I love that. I think, because it's great that you have your agents in California. It makes it pretty easy for you to hit them up with either some Facebook ads to get it in front of those specific people.
LinkedIn. all
Yeah,
that
well,
good
yeah,
stuff.
LinkedIn. So yeah, I think I mean it sounds like you have a pretty well defined person who's going to be listening to this thing. I think you'll do well as long as you hit up those people that are specific. And I love what you're trying to do is and use it to basically interview them, except they don't know they're being interviewed.
Right. I mean, look, when I pitch people about starting a podcast,
Yeah, right.
right?
It's a secret.
Yeah, it's a secret. Well, it's a secret that I tell all the time. When I talk to people about starting a podcast, I tell them, look, this is the number one prospecting tool I have ever come across. There's, if I try to get somebody on a sales call, they don't give me 5 minutes. But if I invite them to be a guest on my podcast, they'll give me 45 minutes. And regardless of how you pitch it, if you're in the sales business, if you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to build relationships with people because if they know, like, and trust you, they might do business with you or refer you business. And that's really what it comes down to. So I'm like, look, you're going to start a podcast. Or like, there's so many, it's so saturated. Yeah. But how many of those people know you? Right. And how many of those people have you connected with? And does it matter if, you have 1 million downloads or not? No, because you're talking to somebody new every single day. You're establishing the relationships that you need to build your business. And that is the key, right? To me, that's the huge part of podcasting. Now, if you get good at your content, if you get good at delivering something that's educational or entertaining, then your reach expands beyond the person that you're talking to. And what's that? That's an extra bonus, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, what kind of insurance specifically is it in?
All your stuff. So your home, your business, and your auto.
Okay. Oh, cool. All right. I wasn't sure if it was like life insurance or
Not so much
one of
focusing
the
on
other,
life insurance.
pig insurance.
Although, I mean,
insurance
there's
for
nothing,
pigs, I don't know.
nothing against life insurance. Like, we definitely can add that in there. And I don't, but our agency is primarily the stuff.
Yeah,
So
reassuring the stuff. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, because the stuff also gives you some kind of collateral too.
Right?
yeah, well,
You-
the
you
stuff
know,
is the stuff that's required by law or by banks or by landlords or whatever.
That's a good way to cash in there because they have to have it.
That's right. Like that DJ equipment sitting behind you.
Yep.
Right? And you got to make sure it's protected when you're taking it around places.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Yep. No, that's a good point. But yeah, I don't know. I think I mean I think you're on the right path as far as hitting up the right specific people and with the right reasoning that will ultimately help. I think
Well, let me shift it a little bit. So
Right product to the right person at the right. That's the trick.
yeah,
That's the trick,
I mean,
right?
Definitely.
let me flip it a little bit. We're 545
entertaining.
episodes. Thank you. I'm trying, right? So we're
welcome.
545
Takes one to know
episodes
one.
in, right? We're 545 episodes in. If we wanted to make a shift, what would you advise? Is it a good thing to make a shift? Like maybe, we're called the Business Bros, but maybe we shift over into, business therapy or something, or maybe we shift into specifically real estate, or maybe we shift, like, is it ever a good time in your brand to make a drastic change in your show
To
when you've already
rebrand.
to rebrand? Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We like, contrary to popular belief, we are not Disney and or like Coca-Cola or anything like that, right? But even those companies, those brands, they make changes too, right? And they don't always hit a home run. I mean, I'm a huge Disney fan, and if you couldn't count on fingers and toes how many attractions that they've opened, had grand opening, grand closing within 18 months, and seriously, like, so they try things, they make mistakes. Like, I've rebranded my show several times, right? It went from the Dreamers Podcast, the Dreamers Podcast, business lessons from those that live their dreams, to Business with Super Joe Pardo, because I won the Business Podcast Award of 2017. I think it was 2017. Anyway, yeah. So,
When you win so many awards, you get.
I
you
missed
lose
that
track
in
of
your
what
intro.
happened.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No worries. When you then 2 years into it, I was like, I kind of feel like I want to go back to the Dreamers Podcast. I've rebranded back to the Dreamers Podcast, and ultimately I've landed on the Super Joe Pardo Show, and the show's actually done better since then. But I think a part of that is because the branding and the messaging all kind of are now in sync versus before it was maybe a little bit muddled, and it was the people that were listening weren't necessarily the people that I was trying to create content for. And it didn't, and because the messaging wasn't to get people to listen, wasn't perfect to get them there, it didn't have that impact when I made that shift to business with Super Joe Pardo, which kind of a shame because it was like 2 years of creating a lot of content for business people, but it just didn't have the resonate, it didn't resonate with the people that were listening. So have you sent out?
Do you think it was like the content was maybe, I mean, we talked a little bit about that earlier, being polarizing, right? Deciding you're on one side of the line or the other. And I think when you're first getting started in this whole podcast space, you're worried, right? Do I cuss? Do I not cuss? Do I, talk politics? Do I not talk politics? Right?
Do not curse because it locks you out of countries. That there's countries that just will not allow you. Like, I think India is one of them. Like your show just will not. And not that like, I expect you guys to be huge in it. We're huge in India, but like it limits you, right?
That's a billion people. Why would you limit yourself from reaching an audience of a billion people?
Right. The potential for that, right? And it's not that you necessarily are or will or possibly ever be big in India, but don't limit yourself in that situation. I would also say that the only way that I would say cursing makes a lot of sense is if you're the person that the person you're specifically talking to, like the audience, person that your avatar, if they curse a lot, then that's the only way that I would say, okay, maybe it makes sense, right? Because I'm only going to talk to that person. But even then, it's still limiting because like I'm not going to listen to it because if I'm in the car with my kid, like
there's no way.
There's no way I'm going to listen to it now. Like that sucks. So
basically, if it was a podcast for the Navy, we'd be all right.
but it had to be active Navy. But even then, like if they have kids and they're driving the kid to wherever, like they're not going to listen to it then, right? Potentially. Right. So it's up to you. You just have to know and understand and weigh the risks of what hill you're going to go die on, right? And if cursing's the hill you're going to die on, then more power to you. Please do. I mean, I curse a lot outside of podcasting and live streaming and stuff.
When your kids are not present.
Well, that's the thing is because of where I'm at, like this door behind me is the door to the laundry room. So like they open the door all the time, but I have these headphones on. I can't really hear. So like I'll be playing a game or talking to somebody and I'll start cursing and I don't know that they're there. Ooh. So I got to start getting in that habit of not.
That reminds me, you talked earlier about LAN parties, right? Back in like 2005. What game were you playing? I'm curious. I forgot to even ask that. Tell me you were playing Halo. Halo.
No, God, no. Because that was Xbox. I mean, I know it came on PC, but no, it's all about Quake 3 and Unreal Tournament.
Okay. Quake 3. Unreal Tournament was
Quake
dope.
Quake 3 is the game. We were really competitive. We went to QuakeCon in 2004. It was me and my crew. Like it was fun.
So,
time.
So my kids are really into the Fortnite thing right now. This one season's coming in, another one's coming. Yeah. And I saw that Halo was coming back. So I told my kid, I was like, hey man,
it looks like Halo Christmas? 1.
Yeah, it looks like Halo 1, right? I was like, hey man, let's get an Xbox Series X and let's play some Halo when it comes out. Now it got delayed to 2021, but I told my son, I was like, look, if Halo comes out, I might dedicate a few hours to play some online gaming, but I will be streaming it. He's like, really?
Well, you can, so I was streaming games for a little while there until I was talking to a friend of mine, Dr. Tyson Franklin down in Australia, and we had this long talk. Because if you go and watch my pilot episode of the TV show, I'm not wearing a button down shirt, as I'm wearing a button down shirt right now, right? And it's a big thing because 9 times out of 10 you'll see me in a gray V-neck, and that's what I wear all the time. So he beat me up like a year ago and was like, Joe, you gotta wear a button-up shirt. I was like, but I don't want to be that guy. And he's like, Joe, you got to. And now I'm going back and I'm rewatching it, and I'm like, I really wish I was wearing the button-up shirt when I did it, because at the time I was like, no, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm Super Joe Pardo, and this is how I dress. And when I come to your business and help you with your business, this is how I'm going to be dressed, because guess what? We cleaned out a whole garage in that episode. So I'm not going to do that in a button-up shirt.
Exactly.
Though maybe I should have, because it probably would have made for a little more entertainment, I guess. But the point being is he was like, Joe, I see you playing video games and you're streaming them to your Facebook and to this. You have I have like a gaming channel called like Games of Super Joe Pardo, and he's like, from a branding standpoint, he's like, it doesn't work. He's like, it doesn't work. He's like, it's polarizing in the sense that he's like, I hate video games. He's like, I love you, but I hate video games. And it turns me off that every time I see you streaming them. Because he's like, what? Like, I get you play them. He's like, that's fine. That's not the problem. The problem is when people go to search up Super Joe Pardo, what are they going to find? Are they going to find you playing with video games? Yeah, that sounds like the guy I want to hire to help me with my business. And I'm like, well, yeah, but there are guys out there that want to play games. He's like, yeah, but he's like, how many of those are actually guys that have money that want to work with you?
Not very many, no.
But they might because of that. Like,
it's the same reason why I don't play video games right now, right? It's because I don't have the time. I don't make the time to play the game.
Make the time, man. I make some time, even with 2 kids and a wife. Like I still make some time, a couple hours a week. 2-3 hours a week to be able to play with some of my friends, because you got to have some kind of release. And between running, meditation, and doing all the other things, like you got to make some time to just unwind and shoot some things.
I definitely make time. I definitely make time to unwind. Yeah, but it just hasn't been video games. See, what you don't know about me is I owned a game truck for like 5 years. So I like literally would do kid birthday parties, roll up
on those.
Yeah,
we work on the generators at the shop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So so ours was a rolling video games truck way back when, and so literally I got paid. Like if I went to a party and I played video games and beat the crap out of kids like in first person shooters, I got a bigger tip than if I just sat there and let the kids play. Like it was ridiculous. So I spent a lot of years
like the DJ, right? You got to bring the party.
You have to, right?
Sometimes you got to get out on the dance floor and you got to dance and get the party started. Playing the music isn't always enough. Sometimes it is, but not all the time.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. Man, Joe, I had some fun with you, brother. Like I knew it the moment you jumped on the mic and threw on your own theme music. Hit the music again. Hit the theme music. That was awesome. I knew this was going to be an epic episode.
It is. But so think about that branding before you go streaming, because it's, if you saw the game truck, it makes sense, right? It matches the brand.
Yes.
So I think. So, and I've given a lot more thought to that, creating videos and then thinking back. Like I'm watching even some of my old videos, like from 2016, 17, where like I'm talking about business, but I'm like in a t-shirt in my studio, right? And I'm just like, at the time, like it was a hill I was willing to die on. But now I'm looking back at it and I'm like, this doesn't feel like it has the right context. Back in 2017, I think, or 2018, I think it was 2017, I actually went and did 100 vlog episodes in a row, so a daily vlog where I would bring a business lesson out of wherever I was, whatever I was doing. Like I'm at the aquarium, I found something to talk about business related, shot a vlog, uploaded it the next day. But the problem is when you take it out of context, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Like it makes sense if you find it on YouTube and you're like, oh, I'm gonna watch this one. Oh, yeah, another one and another one and another one. I'm getting all these cool business lessons. But like as a random share on LinkedIn, like it just doesn't fit. Like I would be I'm driving my car, I have my phone set up so I'm recording video, and I'm just talking until I get to my destination. And I chop that video up. It just doesn't necessarily have that. It doesn't have enough context around it to explain what I'm doing and why. And I think that's, when you talk about, branding and thinking about whether or not you should go changing whether, your show, to me, what I would do is I would send out, and I'm assuming you have an email list, right?
Yes.
Right. So, and it doesn't have to be thousands. Like whoever thinks like, I have an email list and it has 10 people on it. Like, well, that's 10 more than zero.
That's an email list. Yeah.
Right. That is
anything
a list.
More than one is a list.
Yes, exactly. So, what I would do is I would just put out a questionnaire and ask some like 3 questions, right? That will get you to where you want to be get that answer, whether you should rebrand or not. Look, I rebranded Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference and literally it started growing organically, and it's still, we're over 1,850 members now. That was September. Wow. So it's been almost a year, but we have grown, I don't know how many fold that is, 4 times, I don't know, 8 or 4 times 4 is
Help him out,
1600.
math teacher.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a lot.
Who's the math
It was a
teacher?
lot.
It was a lot. It grew an awful lot in 1 year. So just changing the name, changing some of the stuff that is written, like, can make all the world a difference. And honestly, I would have never ever believed it if it didn't happen to me. So I'm grateful. And going back to that story, like me speaking at the event, like I told them at the end of that event, or the end of my talk, like, hey, I'm changing the name, and if you allow me, I would like to take this more serious throughout the year versus like 2 months prior to the event, and then the event, and then kind of maybe a month later that's it for a while. Because that's where those books were written, was right after that event in September. So I would host the event in September, pretty much, get all the stuff done afterwards, the virtual tickets and stuff, and then go dormant as I'm writing my next book, and spend September till December writing the next book. Then January pops up. Then okay, now we're gonna start getting some things going here and there each month, leading up to the September event. So now, been taking it serious for pretty much the last year, a lot more serious since March when COVID hit. We started doing virtual conferences, and going back to, you asked the question earlier, like, how is this event on the 12th and 13th going to be different? Well, we did 9 virtual events since March 29th was the first one. And every 2 weeks we did another event, and it exponentially grew our group. This event is different. So those events were used with StreamYard, which is what we're recording with right now, where we would have the speakers come in and out, and I was hosting the whole thing, running the whole thing, throwing the comments up on the screen, all that. This event is going to be hosted in Zoom. It's a face-to-face event. So everybody, like, just like we are when we get together in a room, in the in-person events, we'll be all together in the Zoom event. It's an 80s theme, so we'll have 80s trivia,
Nice.
80s attire,
80s hair, bandanas.
80s hair, exactly. So it's going to be, I wanted to add something different, because I've heard the cries, right? If I have to do another Zoom call, I'm gonna throw my computer through the window, and it's like,
they're all cholo 1980s cholo gangster.
Exactly. So
NWA glasses.
So like we could do this and have a lot of fun with it. And then thanks to Zoom, like, we could break out into our workshops, like into little groups and things of that nature. So it'll basically be running as if we were all together, just not together, physically, unfortunately. I was going to do an event in my backyard. So the original idea, once I canceled the event, I was like, you know what, let's do a backyard event. I'll rent a tent. It'll be big. We'll limit tickets to 50 people, because we could totally host 50 people. I could get porta potties, and we can get hand sanitizers and masks and all that stuff. But as time went on, and we were going to live stream it too. So you could buy the live stream ticket, watch online, or, if you feel comfortable, come. But as this whole COVID thing has devolved into a catastrophe, really, I'm just like, well, in Jersey here, our restaurants are open, but they're only open outside. So like, tents are getting hard to find, because everybody's renting the tents up, as much as they possibly can. I'm like, I don't really want to take a tent away from a restaurant that might need it, or pay exuberant prices for that tent when we're only going to have like 50 people here. So, and then I was talking to my business coach, and I was like, what do you think? And she's like, Joe, she's like, I don't think you should do this. She's like, here's why. Because you don't have a team with you. Like, it'll just be you, and you'll be running the tech, hosting it, taking care of the people that are actually paid to be there, taking care of the people online so they feel like they're a part of this event that they're not at, and you're going to be doing pretty much all that by yourself. She's like, Joe, I wouldn't
don't
do
know
it.
if that's going to
I wouldn't do it. Yeah, it's not really feasible. And I'm like, yeah, when you put it that way, and then do you know how much it costs to rent a porta potty?
I have no idea.
So I called up a couple of different places, and one place was like, oh yeah, well we only have 8-stall ones, so it's four men's, four women's, and it's like a trailer that they roll up, and it would have been like $4,000 for
Holy crap.
day, and I'm like,
Damn.
Nope. That should be like a week. What are you?
Damn.
Like that's
It's
crazy.
more expensive than toilet paper. Holy crap.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. You tell me.
You're like 50 people. I got a restroom right in my house.
Well, the whole idea was to keep people out of the house.
Yeah,
that was
yeah, no,
like
I'm
we
just
say
messing
socially
with you.
distant. Yeah, but that was kind of my thought. Was like, yeah, I do have a bathroom downstairs. Like we could probably get away with this and then just sanitize the crap out of everything. But so I was like, I started adding it all up, and I'm just like, this just isn't going to make sense because we can't sell enough tickets. And we had a handful of people that are like, I'm coming. Like you having it?
They're your
I'm
VIPs.
coming.
They're going every
Yeah,
time.
and I'm like, that's awesome, but like I can't charge enough to cover enough of those costs. And then, it's an outdoor event. So like, what if it rains? And then, what if we only got 10 people? Okay, that's fine, except for the fact that now we pay for this expensive tent, a porta potty, or we don't get a porta potty. Cool, but like, it just wasn't going to make sense. I was like,
the
let me
struggle
put my focus
is real. Yeah,
in
the
virtual,
struggle.
right? And now, so we're doing it in Zoom. We're gonna do the 80s themed event. So it's gonna be different and fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
And we can get information at Super Joe Pardo.com, right?
Well, not really. Go to indiepodcasters.com.
Indiepodcasters.com.
INDIE. Yeah. I'll throw it in the chat over here.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Joe, man,
yeah,
dude, it's been like I said, man, it's been a hell of a ride. Like normally we go 30 minutes, but I'm telling you, you got so much stuff, man. You got so much energy.
I always tell podcasts, it's your show, right? If it takes
You can do
longer
whatever
to
you
do
want.
Do it. Yeah, do it longer.
Yeah.
Do it longer. Like
I tell people
there's
the
no such
same
thing as
thing.
too long, just boring, right? If it gets to the point where it's boring, then that's when you hit the too long mark, right? But and most people don't get that. They're like, it's got to be 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes because I read somewhere that's how long the average drive time is on people. Well, right now there is no average drive time because like
So
only
true.
less than a third of the country is going anywhere.
What about the people who like clean their house or maybe go on a jog or like your show could be playing at a bunch of different things, and it doesn't really matter when people like your show. They're going to listen to your show. When they like what you're talking about, they're going to listen to what you're talking about. Plain and simple. It's that's what it is.
Yep, I tuned into 2 podcasts today, just playing on the phone while I'm working away. So
yeah, you never know what you pick up, and you just keep going with it. You keep going with it. Now, I completely understand, Joe. My only concern is I got kids that I got to take care of right now. So that's my that's what I stick to my time for. But honestly, man, dude, it's been a good one. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing.
Absolutely.
I mean, September 12th and 13th.
So it's a 2-day event. It was going to be one. It's 2-day event. And if you want to work with me, if you want to learn more about what I do, we didn't even talk about the team, the offer, the process, and all that stuff that I do with the business growth strategies. Go over to superjoepardo.com and you can learn all about what I do there.
I mean, you seem like you're not very stressed out. You put on huge events. You literally overwhelm your own plate, but you don't seem like you're overwhelmed. So you must be doing something right.
You try to put a smile on your face all the time, and it helps make other people feel comfortable and confident. And like I said, my goal is to bring the super out of other people. So if I'm here and I'm looking all stressed out and all, it's not to say that I don't get stressed out. Like I definitely do, because I definitely put too much onto my plate from time to time, and I gotta get one of my friends to say, hey, maybe scale it back a little bit, put some more love into the couple of things you got going on before you go run off and do some more things and add them to your plate.
Like
Look, I got books I want to write. I got an Evernote that's like full of book ideas. Those take time and effort. So
I feel like you're talking
around to it.
To me. No, you're talking at me right now. I know. Show more love to the things you got. No, at me. No, it's funny because I'm over here. I kept asking myself the question, like, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And I keep asking myself that. And as I'm writing stuff down in my journal, I realized, why are you asking yourself who you are? Like, you know who you are. The question is not who are you, it's who do you want to be, and then work towards that. Nice. So I started shifting, my mindset a little bit, and it kind of comes to the same thing. I got so much on my plate, and I look at something, and I'm like, well, that's an opportunity, and I'm hesitant to start something new, and I keep telling myself the same thing: show love to what you got. So right now we got that Carrier Experience podcast launching September 1st. I'm going to show love to my insurance agency and to my new podcast coming out. And that's where the love's going to be, focus and attention, and we're going to build that. We're going to build that out. So, Joe,
love that. Congratulations.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much again for coming on the show. Appreciate your time. I got to make sure I get these kids fed.
All
but
right, you guys are
they
both on the
starve.
West Coast, I guess. Like
we're on the West Coast, yeah.
San Diego.
That would explain. Oh, nice. I haven't been to San Diego yet. I want to get there. LA and all those towns around LA I've been to.
Bring the indie podcast conference out here.
You know what? That was one of the ideas behind renaming it, is that we could host events outside of the Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, I was thinking that when you were saying that. Like, you got people in Australia, go to Australia. Why not?
We were supposed to have an event, a sister event down there, but
there you go.
COVID. November, I was supposed to be on the beach in Sydney. Sadly, we are not. That's not a thing right now. So hopefully, maybe next year or the year after, we'll be able to do that.
There you go.
Sometime soon, when the world gets back to normal.
I hope
it's coming,
so, man. I really hope so.
Ladies and gents, I do have to get out of here. So, peace.
Bye-bye.
And we're out.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the business bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the insurance bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@csfirst.com to schedule a free consultation, or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.